What's up, Buck Doug with D&E in the Garage? It's been a while since we just sort of had a little casual conversation wrapped about basically nothing while I drive to work. So I thought for today we would try something different, and if it works out, it might be something we make a habit of. Let's talk about some stuff that's in automotive news right now. All right, I noticed a couple stories when I was just reading random BS this week that I thought would be interesting to discuss with you, as go figure, I had opinions on it. All right, now the first one that I want to talk about is something that a lot of you have asked me about, what I think about it. So I figured we might as well just kind of go for it and let's just talk about it. It's the potential Fiat Chrysler Automotive merger with Renault. Now, that's interesting to us as Jeepers because Jeep has been involved with Renault before. When AMC owned Jeep, AMC was partnered with the French automaker Renault. If you don't know, Fiat Chrysler is a merger of the Italian Fiat company, the American Chrysler company. They own Jeep, Dodge, Chrysler, Fiat, and I think some other weird off brands. Renault is a French company that they're kind of small. I guess maybe they're big in France. They've never had a huge presence in the United States, and recently there's been a lot of talk about the potential merger between FCA and Renault. Now, what I couldn't find anywhere in the news is exactly what the nature of this merger would be, because the merger could be anything. The merger could be like what Fiat and Chrysler did, where the companies pretty much became one company and they're completely intertwined, models, whatnot. It could be something like what Ford did with Mazda, where they're kind of partnered with each other. Ford sells some Mazdas as Ford, Mazda sells some Fords as Mazdas. It could be what Renault had with AMC, where there was no real mixing of vehicles per se, but what Renault did was they gave AMC a bunch of money to develop new vehicles like the Jeep Cherokee and Grand Cherokee, to be honest with you. And then Renault got some stake in the company. So I don't know what nature this partnership would be. I'm kind of assuming that, I mean, FCA is a big, strong company right now. They're doing really well. Jeeps are selling like crazy. Rams are selling like crazy. To my knowledge, Renault, they're not like going under, but I don't know. They're much smaller, so it wouldn't be an even partnership the way it was with Fiat and Chrysler. So I don't know what it would be. One thing's for sure, currently Renault is partnered with Nissan. If the Fiat Chrysler merger goes together with Renault, Nissan's getting probably kicked out the door. So clearly Renault does not have any kind of non-compete in their contract with Nissan. So I couldn't figure out like what would this mean for us. So I can't figure out how I would feel about it. It seems kind of dumb. I don't think FCA really needs this merger. This is looking, of course, from an American's point of view, where in the United States, FCA is doing fine. Jeeps are selling like friggin' crazy. Ram trucks are selling like friggin' crazy. Fiats are not selling at all. Chrysler minivans, we discussed this when I did that weird video where I recorded my commute to work and figured out what percentage of each automaker was on the road in my area. Chrysler minivans are by far, at least in my area, the most prevalent minivans, so they're selling well. Obviously, Dodge is the only company that's selling cars well right now. You know, Ford and GM are squashing their car brands, or moving them to tiny EV platforms, whereas Dodge was like, screw it, we're just going to put a 6.4 liter V8 in it and everyone's going to love us. If you guys can't figure out, I'm a Dodge fanboy. Right after Jeep, Dodge is just so cool. Yes, they almost go bankrupt like once every 15 years because of their business methods, but damn, do they do it with style, man. So personally, I don't get why they would want to merge. It would make them the third largest automaker on the planet. So, I mean, maybe it's just a stability thing. Maybe Renault's trying to be able to sell cars in the United States a little more. In my reading, I kept seeing how like the French government and the Italian government were really excited about this potential. So clearly it would have some big implications in Europe. I don't know that it would affect us in the United States all that much. Like, Americans are not going to start buying Renaults any more than they started buying Fiats when they came in with Chrysler. But there it is, man. Fiat Chrysler merger. By all means, if you know anything else about it, especially if you're over in Europe, because I definitely think this would be a bigger deal across the pond there. I don't know that it's going to matter here in the States for us, but I don't know. We don't know down there in the squawk boxes. The next thing is something that I knew was going on, but I didn't realize how big a deal it was. I've been reading for a few years about automakers wanting to go to subscription platforms. They don't want to sell you a vehicle anymore, all right? They want to rent you a vehicle. You pay X dollars a month, and Ford rents you a vehicle for as long as you want to rent said vehicle. And automakers want to get away from ownership for a variety of reasons that I'm going to get to in a second. But this story was about Hertz, the rental car company. You go on vacation for 2 weeks, you rent a car, you rent it from Hertz or Enterprise or whatever. Hertz just released a monthly subscription service. So for $1,000 a month, you can rent a car from them. And it includes roadside assistance, it includes obviously all maintenance since you don't own the car, it includes liability insurance, it includes collision insurance. So in essence, you can completely do away with all the strings of attachment that go along with auto ownership. You don't have to physically buy the car. It's obviously a huge expense. You don't even have to have your own insurance. They will insure you through this subscription program, which is pretty wild, because having insurance, having to pay for insurance, it sucks. It's a hassle. You get in an accident, the insurance goes up. So here's how their program would work. There's a subscription fee. So like the first time you pay an extra $250. It's like an administration fee, whatever. That gets you into the program. Then you have two choices. For $1,000 a month, you can rent a sedan or a basic SUV, probably like a crossover or something. Or for $1,400 a month, you can rent a truck or like a luxury SUV. So I'm thinking on the lower platform, it's obviously all sedans, and then maybe like a Hyundai Santa Fe or some other small Honda CRV. Do they even make the CRV anymore? I don't think they do, but you get the idea. RAV4 probably. And then if you pay the $1,400, maybe you can get like a Grand Cherokee, you can get a pickup truck, maybe you can get Ford Explorer. Here's the other interesting thing. You can swap the car out twice a month. So I get why somebody would want to do this. So if you have the means, listen, it's not cheap, all right? Even if you are financing a new car, I don't think you're paying $1,000 a month. I know one of my coworkers has a new Grand Cherokee. They pay like $300 a month. So $1,000 a month is a lot of money. You have to have the means for that. And if you want to upgrade, obviously more. But I'm on a tangent, sorry. So if you have these means though, I can see the desire to swapping out driving a new car every few weeks. That'd be awesome, like a different car, especially if you could afford the $1,400. I'm gonna drive an Explorer for this week, then I'll go get a Grand Cherokee, and then maybe I'll try that new Chevy Blazer. Just kidding, nobody tried the new Chevy Blazer. I saw one at the New York Auto Show, bad. Don't let the name fool you. Terrible, bad GM, very bad. Seriously though, let's talk about that for a second. Look what Ford is doing with the 2021 Bronco, and then Chevy has the weighty danglers to throw a friggin' world platform tiny crossover SUV out there and call it the Blazer. GM, man, you do some awful things, and that's just a slap in the face, man. Look what bad GM. Jeep is out here, Chrysler's out here bringing back full-frame Jeep trucks, all right? Ford's out here bringing back the Bronco in all its glory, and you're just smearing the landscape with a disgusting attempt to capitalize on a storied, beloved American nameplate like the Blazer. Tisk. I completely digress. I had no intention of going on that tangent. Anyway, so I get why you'd want to do this. You can swap out the car. You can even swap it out more than twice a month for an additional $75. Here's my problem with this whole thing, all right? We're moving towards a different world. For the past 15 years, we've been making major advancements in car culture, all right? Manual transmissions are going away, all right? Electric vehicles are becoming more and more popular, and the reason these kind of things scare me is it's moving towards a landscape that destroys car culture as we know it. All right, automakers hate people like me and likely people like you for two reasons. One, I don't buy new cars. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm an insanely loyal Jeep fan, but Jeep doesn't make any money when I buy a $2,500 WJ to drive daily. They don't give a damn about that. They care about the guy that bought this thing in 2001. He did something for the brand. I did nothing for them. And all of you out there who I know, man, every time I ask, hey man, everybody tell me what you drive, it's always the same thing. I drive a 96 XJ, I drive an 04 WJ, I drive a 03 Liberty, whatever. TJs, lots of TJs as well in the D&E viewership, which is cool. And the other reason they hate us is they don't want us working on our own cars. Ford led a charge a number of years ago, and it's in the background at all times. They want it to be illegal for you to work on your own car. And what they want to do is what agricultural tractor companies did. They want to put so much software in it that you cannot work on it without manipulating the software, and they want to say, no, that software is proprietary. Yes, we sold you the vehicle, but you don't have any right to the software. The same thing with like your iPhone. You don't legally have a right to mess around with the software in your iPhone, because even though you bought the iPhone, Apple owns the software. That's proprietary, and you have no right to manipulate it. Automakers very much want this to be a thing. Why? Because then I can't fix my own car, and you can't take it down to Uncle Jerry's shop and have him do it. You have to go to a Ford dealership. This is devastatingly terrifying to me, or terrifyingly devastating. Either one, doesn't matter. And they can do that easier with this rental program, and here's why. I'm gonna wait to dive into this one because we're about to go through a tunnel. Wait for it. Wait for it. Tunnel! Okay, if you rent a car, they're responsible for the maintenance. So you have no need to work on it. Additionally, if we get to a point where, say, 60+% of the population is no longer buying cars, they're just renting one, then they can do what they really want to do. They can make it so that it's so expensive to buy a new car that it makes more sense to just rent. All right? And at that point, if the majority of the world is renting and they're driving more and more people away from buying new and just renting, they now have more control over it, and they can do things like make it so complicated that you couldn't work on it even if you wanted to buy it. All right? And then what we eventually have over time is a world where nobody owns their car, nobody works on their cars. Additionally, as always, you've got the government pecking away at your automotive freedoms with different safety regulations, different emissions regulations, and it's a full-on attack on our lifestyle. And people don't care right now because it's super easy to just, so what, man? So I'll buy a $500, dollar Grand Cherokee from 1996, and that's what I'll drive. But I believe we're going towards a world where you can't do that. So we get 75% of the population renting cars from either Hertz or directly from a manufacturer, because that's what these manufacturers really want. Ford doesn't want to sell you a car; they want to rent you a car. So you've got 75+% of the population renting anyway, so they're not going to care if new legislation is put in place that affects old cars or affects people who want to own a car. Then you've got these other emission standards getting forever tighter, and we're going to talk about this with the next story as well. We're moving towards a place where the stuff I even do on this channel. What was my last video? Replacing a PCV valve. That doesn't exist anymore. Nobody does that because I don't even own the damn car anymore. And that would really bum me out, man. Car culture is my life. I know I'm not a traditional car guy, but I love car culture. I'm a car guy. I'm a Jeep guy, but I'm a car guy, you know what I mean? So these stories, yeah, they seem simple. Oh, that's awesome. If you live in the city, you have the means, whatever, you can rent a car. But when you look deeper and you think about the way society and the world actually progresses, it's scary. Now, is there anything we can do about it? No, of course not. It's probably, if there was anything we could do to stop it, it's way too late at this point. You know, it's going to happen. The car companies are way too big to fight. And I know this hurts, but this is normalizing an idea that the automakers would very much like to capitalize on. Very much. Because it means way more money from them. They sell me the car, one and done. We bought my wife's 2018 Compass. We own it. It's not leased, it's not financed, we just own it, all right? Unless it needs warranty work, it's never going to a shop. I will do whatever work is on that. So they got that money from me once, done, all right? Now they had rented me that car, first of all, monthly. They're getting the money from it for me. Just had an aneurysm. They're getting the money for it from me monthly. I have to pay them whatever, you know, $600 a month or something. Plus, that goes on forever now because I don't own a car, but I need a car. So they know for a fact I'm gonna keep coming back unless I switch to another brand. So I've ranted on this long enough. I think you all get it. Let me know what you think. Is there any chance you would ever rent a car? It's like leasing, but more attractive, honestly. Leasing still sucks because you have to have insurance and you have the car for a long period of time. The thing that draws people to leasing is, oh man, you know, I hear it all the time. I don't understand leasing at all. It literally boggles my mind. Like, why would you not just want to own your own car and you've got mileage concerns and all this crap? But every time I ask somebody, like, what the hell are you thinking? They're like, I don't really care about cars. I just like having a new one. And so if I lease, I get a new car every 2 years, which I guess I get. It's just not for me, but whatever. So renting is even more attractive. You get a car every 2 weeks if you want to. Or, of course, you can keep the car you have for, I would imagine, indefinitely. Just keep renting it. You don't have to worry about maintenance, blah, blah, blah. We get it. I've rented enough. So let me know what you think about that. Now, the next story concerns me even more, and on a number of levels. It was, again, a story that I already knew that this was going on, but they were talking about how GM and FCA, Fiat Chrysler, bought greenhouse gas credits from Tesla. Fiat did it a number of months ago. GM just did some. That's why it was in the news again. Now, this is what goes on. When they drop emission standards on car companies, it's not for every car. They don't individually to go, this car has to meet this emissions, that car has to meet that emissions. They say your entire fleet has to have an average of X CO2 emissions. So you can have a Dodge Demon 6.4 liter, but you better build some ridiculously tiny 1.8 liter that offsets it so that your average comes to the middle. Some car companies who choose to build 6.4 liter Dodge Demons can't meet those requirements. Now, they can either pay fines to the government or they can buy credits from companies whose fleets are excessively efficient. Tesla, they don't make it's excessively. Everything about Tesla is just green as frig. The way they build the cars down to the cars themselves. So for the longest time, they have sold their excess efficiency in the form of greenhouse gas credits to other companies. Here's the thing about Tesla. I don't like Teslas for a variety of reasons. I don't like them at all. I love Elon Musk. That dude is a baller, man. And it's common knowledge that he cares so much about the Tesla car program that for the longest time he was selling his cars at a loss. And the only way he was able to do that, to keep the company in the black while literally operating at a loss, was to sell credits. Not the only way, but one of the ways. So that goes on forever. Now, I can hear you looking into your phone going, Doug, shut the hell up, man. You don't need to get angry about everything. Not everything is rage-worthy. But here's why this is rage-worthy. First of all, this practice, and this is just, I mean, there's nothing you really do about it, but this practice is making electric cars less expensive and internal combustion engines more expensive, logically, all right? If Tesla can sell credits and make more money that way, he can sell his cars for less, even though he chooses not to, and they're obscenely expensive now. Not obscenely, but and then it's making internal combustion engines. Obviously, if Dodge has to pay out these credits, they're not going to eat that cost. That cost is going into the cars, your Dodge Demons and everything else. Furthering what we were just talking about, pulling us away from traditional car culture. Listen, man, I don't care what you say. Electric cars, they have only a very, very, very limited place in car culture. Every time I bring up how much I hate electric cars, somebody brings up the Tesla's 0 to 60. It's got the fastest 0 to 60, no gears, instant torque, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Are there really car guys out there that the only thing they care about is a car's 0 to 60 time? It literally is like not even in the top 10 factors of what I think makes a vehicle cool. I don't care about that. Listen, yes, acceleration is fun. I like this 4.7 more. The thing I like more about this 4.7 than the 4-liter is that instant acceleration. If I'm, ticked off or something, or I just want to, kind of throw myself back in the seat and I slam it, that's fun. But that's not the only thing I like about it. It's so far down on the list. And like that instant torque speed is the only thing that's cool about electric cars. You can't work on them. You can't tune them. Like, what are you gonna do if you want to go out? If I want to go out and work on the Jeep, I can do literally any number of things. I'll change a PCV valve today. I'm gonna change oil. I'm gonna do this. What do you do if you own an electric car and you're a car guy who likes to tinker? Do you buy different sets of seat covers and put them on in the garage on a Saturday? What do you do with an electric car? Now, I'm not using the... damn it. Okay. They're for nerds. I'm not using nerds in a negative way. That's just like a classification of people. I know somebody who just bought a Tesla. Honestly, it's the car that makes the most sense for this dude. He loves gadgets. He loves technology. He loves electronics. I get why he bought a Tesla. He doesn't give a dang about internal combustion engines. I totally get why he bought a Tesla, but that illustrates my point. If all of our cars go towards electric vehicles, what is there for me and you and my daughter? Because you better believe that girl is going to be brought up on exhaust fumes 100%. Y'all already know. Little tiny executive producer, she'll be turning wrenches by the time she's 3. Believe. And the reason this scares me, this story about selling credits and stuff, is it's just another way that we're slowly pushing internal combustion engines to the side, making them more expensive, making electric vehicles less expensive, and then here's what happens. So first, right now, it's the rich, the wealthy, the people who really care about, extreme technology buying Teslas. All right, soon, electric cars become so inexpensive that people who they don't really care what they drive, they just need to get to work, are buying electric cars because they're less expensive than internal combustion engines. Now the only people buying internal combustion engines are people that really need one, towing, whatever, and people like me who just, I like them. I like to work on an engine, all right? And then at a certain point, just like with the renting thing, let's say we hit a critical mass of 60 to 70% of the population, now governments can do things to push the remainder out of the picture, because the government doesn't want me driving this vehicle. They want something more efficient. It looks better on a world stage if your country is driving more electric cars. I know it's the way of the future. I know it's already too late, but I'm going to sit here complaining about it anyway. Here's another reason I hate electric cars. Let me paint you a little picture here in New Jersey. And this really pisses me off, actually. A while ago, we had the cheapest gas in the nation, just about. I don't know who else might have had a little bit cheaper, but Jersey had, everybody knew in this area, Jersey. You want gas, you go to Jersey. Another fact about Jersey at this time was that the roads were kind of messed up. Infrastructure was crumbling. It's like that everywhere in the United States. Infrastructure's crumbling, right? So our governor had a wonderful idea. Let's tax gas to pay for repairs to the road. It's actually really logical, because if you're buying gas, you're using it to drive around on the roads. Thus, you are using the roads more, and so the more you use the roads, the more you have to pay to help fix them. Now, we're going to ignore the fact that our new piece of shit governor has already found a way to steal that money from the roads, but if you own electric cars, you're driving just as much on the road as I am, but now you're not paying into that tax. I still pay that tax. I pay a lot of that tax. It's something I'm okay with. A long time ago, I decided that I just don't care about miles per gallon. It's nice to have. Occasionally, I'll measure just to see where my vehicle's at. If I'm taking a long trip, I like to know what I got on said long trip. But a long time ago, I said, listen, dude, I'd rather drive a fun car than an efficient car, thus my 20-year-old V8. But it does piss me off that you out there in your Nissan Leaf are not paying the same amount of goddamn tax that I am to drive on the same friggin' road. And this exists all over the place. There are a ton of taxes put into place that electric cars get to skirt around. And that's bullshit. That pisses me off, all right? It's another way that the scales, man, it's already so awesome to get to buy a friggin' electric car. You get a tax write-off for it. You get this write-off. The entire world gets on their knees for you because you're such a good goddamn human for wanting to save the environment by driving a god-awful, disgustingly ugly, boring as absolute frig Nissan Leaf. Just because I want to drive a V8, you know the thing though? It's bad here. It is so much worse overseas. We have this awesome viewer. He's been with us from the beginning. John from the Netherlands, right, John? I apologize that I'm stuttering on that. He's got an 01 TJ. He tells me all the time when we're talking, how crazy it is and crazy expensive it is for him to own that TJ where he lives, because the government does not want him to have a 20-year-old 4-liter that's not efficient, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. He gets taxed out the ass just to own that thing. He was telling me the tax to buy a new Wrangler because of the size of the vehicle and the size of the engine, it's like $100 grand plus to own a Wrangler in some places in Europe. That's insane! That's not freedom, man! Screw you for wanting to tax the absolute living Christ out of me just because I don't want to drive a boring tiny vehicle. Screw you, man! Oh God, that makes me so angry, because what they're doing, they're destroying our car culture. The car culture, the Jeep culture, the truck culture that we were brought up on, that we were given the choice. Hey, you want to go this way? You want to be a tuner guy? You want to be a Jeep guy? You want to be a diesel truck guy? Our children, and certainly our children's children, are not going to have the same choices. They're going to be pigeonholed into these boring, disgusting friggin' cars, and our car culture goes away, and it's going to be something that people study in friggin' history class. 100 years ago, people actually used to care about their car. They would even own them. Isn't that weird? That bums me out, man. I wish I hadn't made this video on the way to work, and I'm going to be bummed out and pissed off all day. So the whole point of ranting and raving about these last two items, normalizing the idea of renting a car instead of owning it, normalizing this idea that, well, not really normalizing the idea, it's just perpetuating the inevitable slog away from internal combustion engines to electric vehicles. I know that it spells the death for car culture, Jeep culture, truck culture as we know it, and that bums me out. That is all. I had no intention of making this what I assume is going to be a plus 30 minutes video. But to be honest, you jerks didn't have to watch, so I mean, you could have done anything else with your time. Not to say I don't appreciate you watching. I liked this little bit of news, so maybe I'll try to do this every few weeks. We'll find a few stories that are at the forefront in automotive news, and we'll squawk about them. Obviously, the whole reason I bothered presenting all this to you guys is I want to know what you think about the stories themselves, about my interpretation of the stories, and definitely, I guess I want to know what you think about the change in car cultures, but it's going to depress me. But anyway, whatever. Hope you guys have a better day than I'm about to have, because I'm going to be depressed and pissed off all friggin' day. That's for sure. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching. See you next time.